Jealousy. It's like a poison. Sometimes it doesn't come from strangers, but from the people closest to us, even family. For years, my cousins spread lies about me, turning relatives against me, making me feel like an outsider in my own family. But life has a strange way of balancing things. Because years later, when I finally succeeded, I revealed his secrets in front of everyone. That day, silence filled the room. I grew up in a middle-class American family in Ohio. My parents worked hard, taught me discipline, and always reminded me that character matters more than money. Every Sunday, our extended family gathered at my grandmother's house. It was supposed to be a warm tradition, cousins playing in the backyard, uncles discussing work, aunts gossiping over coffee. But for me, those gatherings weren't always happy. Because of one person. My cousin, Ethan. Ethan and I were the same age, always compared by everyone. Grades, sports, friends. But while I stayed quiet and focused, Ethan craved attention. And when he didn't get it, he found another way, by bringing me down. At every gathering, he'd whisper lies. If you knew what Alex did at school. Don't trust him, Aunt Linda, he's always sneaky. And the worst part? People believed him. When I won a spelling bee, he told everyone I cheated. When I got good grades, he said my mom helped me too much. When I stayed quiet, he called me arrogant. I remember being 12 years old, standing in the kitchen, overhearing him tell my grandmother that I'd stolen money from her purse. My heart sank. It wasn't true. But by the time I defended myself, the doubt was already planted. As we grew older, his lies grew bolder. In high school, Ethan was the popular one, quarterback of the football team, always surrounded by friends. I wasn't unpopular, but I was the kid who studied late, worked a part-time job, and kept my circle small. Family gatherings became a nightmare. Relatives would congratulate him on touchdowns, scholarships, and girlfriends. Then they'd turn to me with lukewarm smiles. Alex, you're still studying, right? Not much of a social life, huh? They didn't say it outright, but I could feel it. Ethan was the golden boy. I was the shadow. What they didn't know was that while Ethan was out partying, I was stacking shelves at a grocery store to save money. While he was skipping classes, I was pulling all-nighters. But no one saw that. No one wanted to. And Ethan, he made sure of it. Every time I made progress, he poisoned it with rumors. He'd tell people I was a teacher's pet, or that I bought friends with money. Lies spread faster than truth. By the time college applications rolled around, I was exhausted. I worked so hard, but it felt like nothing I did mattered. At a Thanksgiving dinner, the entire family sat around the table. My parents proudly announced that I had been accepted into Ohio State University with a partial scholarship. It was the biggest achievement of my life at that point. But before the applause could even settle, Ethan smirked and said, "Well, scholarships don't mean much these days. Anyone can get one if they know how to play the system." The laughter that followed stabbed me deeper than words ever could. That night, I went home and cried. For the first time, I questioned whether all my hard work was worth it. But then, I remembered my father's words. Character outlasts lies. Truth doesn't need to run, it always catches up. That night, I promised myself one thing. I would rise. Not to prove Ethan wrong, but to prove myself right. College wasn't easy. I worked 2 part-time jobs to cover what the scholarship didn't. I barely slept. While others partied, I was either in the library or behind a cash register. But slowly it paid off. I graduated with honors. Then came my career. I started at the bottom of a tech company, entry-level, making coffee runs and fixing printers. But I learned. I stayed late. I asked questions. And within a few years, I climbed the ladder. By the time I was 30, I was leading a department. By 35, I started my own tech startup. And by 40, that startup had grown into a multi-million-dollar company. While I was building my life, Ethan was different. The golden boy glow faded. He didn't finish college. He drifted from job to job, chasing quick money, chasing shortcuts. By the time I hit success, he was drowning in debt, divorced, and still living off his parents. But none of that mattered yet. Because one moment was about to change everything. It was my mother's 70th birthday. The family decided to host a big reunion, uncles, aunts, cousins, everyone under one roof again. I hadn't seen many of them in years. Some still believed the lies Ethan told about me. Some barely remembered me. When I walked into the room, wearing a suit, my wife by my side, I saw their eyes widen. People whispered, some in admiration, some in disbelief. And then Ethan walked in. Same smirk, same arrogance. Except now it felt hollow. Dinner was served. Toasts were made. Laughter filled the air. And then, like always, Ethan couldn't help himself. He raised his glass and said loudly, "Of course, let's not forget Alex, the genius of the family. Always so perfect. Almost too perfect, right? If only people knew the real him." The room chuckled nervously. Same old game. Same old poison. But this time, I was ready. I stood up. My heart raced, but my voice was steady. "You're right, Ethan," I said. "If only people knew the real me. But you know what's funny? I think people deserve to know the real you." The room went silent. I took out my phone, opened a folder, and placed it on the table. Years of collected proof. Emails, screenshots, records of debts, shady business deals Ethan had tried to drag me into. I stayed silent for years while you spread lies about me. You called me a cheat, a fraud, arrogant. But while I was working nights and building my life, you were busy borrowing money you never paid back, scamming friends, even stealing from your own parents. Gasps filled the room. Ethan's face turned pale. "And you know what hurts the most?" I added, my voice cracking. "Not your lies, but the fact that so many of you believed them." Silence. Pure silence. The kind that shakes walls. Ethan tried to speak, but no words came out. That night, the golden boy's crown shattered. From that day forward, the family saw me differently. Respect replaced doubt. Admiration replaced suspicion. Ethan. He avoided family gatherings for years. Some relatives still tried to defend him, but deep down, everyone knew the truth now. As for me, I didn't celebrate his downfall. I didn't need revenge anymore. The truth had done its work. But sometimes, late at night, I think back to that 12-year-old boy in the kitchen, accused of stealing money from Grandma's purse. And I smile. Because that boy grew up, carried scars, but never lost his integrity. And in the end, integrity outshines jealousy. Always. That was my story, the cousin's jealousy. If you've ever been the victim of lies, remember this: you don't need to fight fire with fire. Keep working, keep building, and let the truth do its work. Because when it finally speaks, silence will fill the room.